Hey everybody, welcome to Optimum Performance and Productivity. My name is George Carroll and I'm here with my good friend and project manager of this training, Tara Taglienti. How are you, Tara?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Tara and I were just talking about sometimes when you have a lot of energy rushing through your body, instead of trying to hold it in, you just basically pretend like you have Tourette's and just go, hey, 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 and it helps kind of get that energy out because when we bottle it up, sometimes it turns to anxiety and for me, it's like I just need to get it out. So anyway, welcome to this hangout. It's a free hangout, and Tara and I wanted to do what we could to open up the doors and pull back the curtain and kind of show you what this training is going to be about. I've been doing
Yeah.
this training specifically for corporations and companies over the last 6 months or so. And it's been such a great success, I thought, how can I organize a 3-hour meat and potatoes kind of training for all the people who are on my email list, for all the people who are, watching me on social media. And basically this is what we're doing. And so in the next 30 minutes or so, we'll just basically explore some of the top keys. Oh, the first thing that you want to do is right below, there's a link that says Get Your Free Training. When you click that button, it's going to open up a new window, and in that new window, you're going to see the training guide, part of the training guide that you're going to get tomorrow during the actual 3-hour live training. So click that now, and then you'll be able to follow Tara and I as we go through the training. So productivity is an interesting thing, and before we even jump in, I just kind of want to share. Tara, do you want to say anything here? I know I'm just kind of like getting fired up about this here, but anything you want to share?
You know, I yeah, why not? I'm just excited about this, George. Like I'm really excited about how the your intention of the training. It's for all different types of people, like all different, on the spectrum. Like for me, one thing that I love about the way that you do your trainings and all of your talks is that you always make them so much fun. And the word for me, like someone like me, I've always been I'm way, way, way more right-brained and very high creativity, and so a word like productivity, if I see that out there, it's not going to be attractive to me. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, but like what we've kind of done is kind of put some color to it, and with the splashes, and then I know, like, you use humor and all kinds of things, like to like how for the right brain types of people out there, like how is this training going to be for them?
Right.
Yeah,
So cool, and thank you for helping me get the word out here. I
yeah,
love productivity because as you're going to see just in this 30 minutes that we're going to spend together, you're going to see that it's sort of disguised as something else. And by the end of this 30 minutes, you'll see what it is. And if you want more and you want to join us on the 3-hour training, you can jump in, and there's some options below to do that as well. So I'm super pumped. And before we jump in, I just wanted to share, my love for productivity came as a result of, a long time, going with the flow with my business, hitting bankruptcy, and really watching my business fail over the first 6 to 8 months, and saying, okay, going with the flow doesn't work. I need to organize my time and set up my day really intentionally so that I know where I'm spending my time, I know what my highest priority tasks are, and that I'm not just like, some, sailing boat in the ocean, just letting the wind take me where it's going to take me. It's like I want to be intentional on my day and where I want to go. And so hopefully this training will give you some tips and tools and some ideas. And most importantly, this 30 minutes really is designed to shift your point of view, your perspective about productivity. Because
yeah,
as Carol was saying, if we don't feel good and excited about productivity, about being more productive, about producing more, then the chances of us actually seeking out training and ideas and solutions to become more productive, we probably won't even do that. So my love for it came as a result of, again, going with the flow and that not working for me, and then growing my business to a point where now I'm managing 4 parts of my business, and I had to become super productive and super focused on where I was spending my time. And so if you click the link below, it's going to open up a training guide in a whole new window, and this is really the overview. If you scroll down to page number 2, is the training is broken down into 10 chunks. Today we're going to cover the first 3 that you can see that are highlighted right there, and hopefully I'll do my best to shift your perspective around productivity so that it feels exciting to you versus feeling like it's kind of a resistant concept or idea. And also, we have some people tapping in through our Optimum Performance and Productivity Facebook group, so we'll check in with questions every now and again as well. So the first thing that we're going to look at is, what does being productive mean to you? What does being productive mean to you? Most of our associations as it relates to being productive come from like past conditioning and past programming. And I know for me personally in the corporate world, I learned that everything was like by the book and by the specific time. And it was so sort of militant that I got to a point where I just got resistant to it. So most of where I learned productivity before I stepped into how I teach it now came from the corporate world, and we'll go into more depth around that as well. The second thing that we're going to look at is, how do we redefine productivity in a way that excites us and gets us pumped up to be more productive, and then how do we remove some of the inner blocks that are in the way of us being more productive. So by the end of this training, you're going to see hopefully a different view on productivity and really what it's disguised as. And so stay through to the end of the training to see what it is disguised as, because in a lot of cases it's really disguised as us stepping into our greatest potential. So there's a little teaser for you. So disclaimer, and I'm just going to go through the training guide here so you can go through it with me, but a quick disclaimer is with productivity and creation and producing and performing, if whatever you're doing is working, keep doing it. I'm not one to say that my system is going to work for everybody. I'm not one to say that my way is the way. Simply the way that I teach productivity is a result of me studying lots of different time management systems, lots of different productivity systems, implementing as much as I could, noticing what worked for me and what doesn't work for me. And so I'm not here to say, listen, this is the way to do it, because if there's any trainer out there that says they have the way to do it, I would turn around and start running. Because really we all work differently, and our brains operate differently. And even the course of our training tomorrow, over our 3 hours together, if you decide to jump in with us, I'm going to teach you how you can utilize this one sheet that I actually adapted from Brendon Burchard, how you can use this to your advantage. So this is how I plan my day each and every single day. The night before I go to bed, this thing is filled out as fully as it can be, and I'm going to show you exactly how I use this in a moment. So, and also how you can adapt and create your own in a way that fits your brain and fits how your business or how your whatever the course of your day looks like, so that it matches. One of the biggest reasons that most people don't plan is because they don't have anything to plan into that fits their brain, that fits their view of productivity. And you know, Tara, I don't know if how many productivity systems or time management systems you've studied, but how many would you guess are out there?
You were a little bit broken up, but what did you say about the time management systems?
Yeah, like I mean, there are lots of time management systems out there and productivity systems, right? And I'm sure you've studied quite a few too.
Oh yeah, yeah. And yeah, for me, whenever I've tried to use like somebody else's system, I notice that it's like I'll stick to it for like a few days or a week, and then I tend to like get bored of it, or I want to bend the rules on some level, you know, and it's you know, so what I've found is that if I can start to create something of my own, I'm more apt to like abide by something that I've created, and you know, however that
totally
that tends to work for me.
And if there were, you know, if there were a system out there that worked for everybody, we'd all be using that right now.
Yeah.
It's simply not the case. So my invitation to you, for you who's watching this, is use this training, use my training buffet style, because when you go to the buffet, I don't know if you go to buffets, that you know, you don't eat one of every single thing inside of the buffet line. You just kind of pick and choose what looks good to you in the moment. And same thing with this training. I'm going to offer a lot of tools, a lot of strategies, a lot of insight, and it's going to be really up to you to say, okay, I like that idea, I'm going to implement that. That thing sucks, I'm not going to implement that. Oh, that's cool, I'll implement that. Not really a fan of that one, I won't implement that. So pick and choose as you feel fit. And if you decide to jump in with us during the 3-hour training, during the longer training tomorrow, you're going to get more of a customized strategy as a way to use your day to become more productive.
Yeah.
So think of it buffet style. So the first piece that we're going to jump into is, what does productivity mean to you? It's an important question to explore, because when you think about the concept of productivity, if you associate limiting emotions or limiting energy to the concept of productivity, there's a pretty good chance that you probably won't seek out ways to become more productive. Now, our brains are designed to move away from resistance and move toward alignment. And with that being said, if we have resistance associated to the concept of productivity, we're actually going to find ways to avoid being more productive. And if we start to get excited about the possibility of producing more or creating more, and all being productive is we all have 24 hours in a day. What we do inside of that day will determine the momentum that we gain in the long run. And all being productive means is, how much can you create, how much can you produce, how much can you get done in that 24 hours of time. And really, that's what this training is all about, is like, how do we cut the fat, how do we eliminate distractions, or at least at the very least manage our distractions in the way that keeps us focused, but yet open to receiving the magic from the universe, and keeps us focused on completing high priority tasks and high priority activities. So what does productivity mean to you? And Tara, I'm curious, what does productivity mean to you, or what did it mean to you?
So it used to mean for me like a lot of pretty like I'd say it would mean like some sort of like rules, or some kind of like a more mundane or boring, something that I would have to like stick to, and like doing like the tedious, not fun. That's what it would mean. Just not fun.
Not fun. And so if it's not fun for you, are you going to look for ways to be more productive?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Yes, and that was like mind blowing for me to like hear that. It was just like, oh, okay,
Totally.
yeah, like
So if we don't associate, like, I don't want to use positive feelings as a
yeah,
you'll know what I mean, for those of you who are watching, when I say if you associate positive feelings or positive emotion or positive energy to producing and creating more, you're going to find ways to eliminate the fat, cut the fat, and produce more. And so whatever it means to you, take a moment and, after this training, take a moment and fill out this piece on page, I think it's page 2. Yeah, it's page 2, where it says awareness exercise. What feelings or words do you associate with being productive? So Terry, you used words like, not fun and locked down and inflexible. And so one of my favorite quotes is from the famous philosopher Mike Tyson. The famous philosopher Mike Tyson once said that everybody has a plan until you get punched. And that relates to productivity too, because we can't predict some of the things that are going to show up during the day. We can't predict everything that's going to happen, but what will set you up to win your day is to organize and plan your day in a way where you're focused on the highest sort of grossing activities, if you will. What are the activities that if you focused on are going to give you the best bang or the most bang for your buck? And so it's not about like creating a structure that's inflexible. It's about creating some guide points so that you know where you're going to spend your time, and also at the same time being open to what shows up during your day. So keep an eye out for that, and I invite you to do that quick exercise right there. Is, what words do you associate with productivity? And notice, do they have a negative spin to them? Are they resistant type words, or are you like me? Do you geek out on productivity? Are you always looking for ways to create more in less time? And by using the system and some of the tools and strategies that I'm sharing with you now, I was able to write 2 books literally within a span of a year. I'm the author of 2 books at this point. I have 4 parts of my business that I manage. I have a one-on-one mentoring and coaching business. I have a corporate speaking and training business. I have a live seminar business where I do all the marketing and fill the rooms and all of that. And I have an online programs part of my business. So I have to manage all of these 4 parts of my business. And if I'm not organized or I'm not productive, I'm going to watch that all just fall. So for me, it's important to be productive. So for you, just checking in, What associations do you have to being productive? So for a lot of people, it's not necessarily a good feeling. For a lot of people, productivity means constriction or not expansion. And our aim early in this program is to redefine your associations to productivity so that you're excited to be more productive. Another thing to remember that is that if you associate negative feelings to association, you're going to move away from being more productive. And at the end of this training, I'm going to share an interesting twist as it relates to productivity and what it's disguised as. So keep an eye out for that. So the next thing that we want to explore here is where we learned these limiting associations. So when you think back to where you learned what productivity was and being productive, where did you learn it from? And I'm curious for you, Tara, where is it that when you think back, where is it that you learned about productivity, and what is it that, I guess, where you learned it and where did you learn it that gave you the negative associations?
Hmm. Um, let's see. It was more like, I would say it brings me back to like working in like a cubicle environment and being like on timed. I had to I was working for like a press, working for a paper, and everything was like time. You know what I mean? It was like we were always on deadline, and it was just like produce, 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 produce. And two presses that I've worked for were very like just very like go go go, and it wasn't a fun. It wasn't really a fun environment. It was more very like I would say it was like a lot of pressure, So
Nice.
that's where.
Totally. Cool. I'm the same way. Like the cubicle life or the cubicle work life,
Mhm.
in there, it's like everything is so structured and so tight, and that I learned very similar associations to productivity in those models of working, and they don't work. And whether you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur or an employee, you want to find ways for you that work for you in terms of like shifting up your work environment. Go to a coffee shop or go somewhere where you feel productive. For me, if you look at my desk, there's really nothing on it. And the more clean that my working space is, the more clean and clear my mind and the way that I operate is. And so just have an awareness of where did you learn those associations, because a lot of times they're actually in the way of you being more productive and you producing more in the world. And so my invitation to you is to check in to see, okay, where did I learn these old concepts of productivity, and how can I shift it and be more
Yeah.
conscious and aware of being more productive?
I just noticed that I just looking at this now, I'm just like I'm nowhere, my work environments look nowhere near. I don't even immerse myself in those types of environments anymore. So it's just like, oh my God, that is so past paced. So it's pretty cool.
Totally. So the next key is, and again, tomorrow in the 3-hour training, we're going to go deeper into these. And
Okay.
really, I just wanted to touch base on these top three because it's most, in order for us to act in a way and behave in a way where we're wanting to be more productive, we've got to shift the underlying patterns in the energetic and emotional patterns before we'll behave in a new way. And the second key to all of this is, how do we redefine productivity? So how can you redefine productivity in a way that really lights you up? So here are some examples. If you go to page, I think it's page number 4 or something like that. It says, remember, no, that's not it either. It says redefining productivity. For example, for me, being more productive allows me to generate more income, and there's a direct correlation, and even Seth Godin talks about it. If you link productivity to income generation, that meaning if you link, you're going to generate more income, the more productive you become, then if you enjoy more income, there's a good chance that you'll be more productive. And for me, I can see there's a direct correlation. When I produce and create more, my income spikes up as a result of that. It also allows me to have more time and go out. I just moved to Portland about 2.5 months ago, so it allows me to go out and explore the different terrain and go hiking and go kayaking and canoeing and things like that here in Portland. So when I'm super productive and I kill it from 9 to 4 or 9 to 5, whatever my workspace that ends up being, I get the evenings and the weekend to go out and go create and go have fun and go enjoy and go out to dinner and go explore the city. Instead of, if the thing is, if we are working from like 8 to 5 as entrepreneurs, for example, but we find time during the day to get distracted, which we're going to go deeper into distractions. I call them the ninjas of distraction. And
Oh, woohoo.
yeah, and so if we leave ourselves open to distraction, what tends to happen is that we tend to put more work on our plate, and we're
Mhm.
working until 9 or 10 p.m. and being more productive allows you to kill it from 9 to 4 or whatever it is that your work time is. And then if you want to, you can go out and just have fun. Also allows me to spend more time with people I love and care about. Being more productive means I get to help more people with my gifts and have a bigger impact. So for me personally, I have so many positive associations to being more productive and creating more that it's fun for me to play the game. It's fun for me to organize my day. It's just a big game for me. It's fun for me to organize my day in a way that says, okay, what are my highest priority tasks? And then how can I, lock them into my calendar, plug them into my calendar, and then when that time comes, I focus on it. So here's a quick side note.
Cool.
Parkinson's law says that a task will expand in perceived complexity in proportion to the time allowed for its completion. And basically what that means is if you procrastinate in your world and you give yourself a week or even a day to do a 2-hour task, you're going to fill that time with a bunch of distractions. And you're actually going to, in your mind, make that activity more complex and at least, perceived to be more complex than it actually is. And have you ever experienced that? Like, you avoid doing something, this big priority, you avoid it, you avoid it, you avoid it, and it gets all like big and important and significant in your world.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
finally, all of a sudden, you just step into it and you do it, and it's like,
Mm.
it was way easier than I made it out to be. Tara, have you ever
Yeah.
experienced anything like that?
Totally. Yes. Oh yeah.
So,
It's always like at some point it's like I think I need the pressure cooker to like just to produce, and it's like yeah, but I that's totally like I'm guilty as charged.
yeah, and like that's the thing. Think about like if you ever went to college and notice how many times did you cram for a test?
Yes.
A couple of days. That's why we do it, because we intuitively know. And consider, what if you intuitively know how long a task is going to take, but if you give it more time than it needs, then you're going to find ways to distract yourself and avoid
Yeah.
do all kinds of weird stuff until, boom, that threshold or that pressure cooker, I love that metaphor, that pressure cooker kicks in, and all of
Uh,
a sudden, you naturally just become more productive. You cut the fat, you eliminate distractions, you get super focused, and you create magic in that short period of time. And
yeah. Yeah.
my question is, what if you could operate just consistently like that? So we'll explore that more here in a moment. So
That's cool.
the key with redefining productivity is you want to be able to redefine it in a way that feels good for you, that allows you to associate positive things that you get as a result of being more productive. So on the next page where it says new associations, take some time and write down what are some new associations and definitions that you can connect or link with being more productive that will allow you to feel good about it. And take some time and write that below. And Tara, I'm
Yeah.
curious, what are maybe some new definitions or associations that you've taken on about productivity that have made some shifts for you?
You know, I'm seeing it as it's kind of like I'm not sure if this is going ahead of us right now, but what has me be so, like way more fired up about this is I tend to look at like what it is that I'm creating out in the world, like my intention of like why, like kind of like my big why, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, the things that I do for quote unquote work isn't really work anymore. Like it's like I'm doing a lot of things that are fun for me, and it's kind of like it's really interesting, George, because with that old association to productivity, I've noticed I've been being productive. I just didn't realize that it was what I was, it was calling it productivity was not something that I would even be calling it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. It's not really a sexy word.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's just like I just noticed that all the things that I do are pretty exciting to me. I like working on bodies, and I like doing the digital stuff, and I like really being very creative, and that's how how my days are. So it's kind of like I've really realized like I don't wake up dreading anything so it's pretty I've changed a lot within these last couple of weeks, just kind of looking at that.
Cool. Hey, so real quick, just a quick side note, where can people find more about what you're up to, like a website or something?
Wait, say that one more time.
Where can people find more about you, like what you're up to?
Oh, okay. Well, in the future, my website is totally still under construction right now because it's like I keep changing what I'd like to put out there. So in the future, it's going to be taratagliente.com. But for right now, I really like it when everybody just connect with me personally on Facebook. I like to get to know you. I like to chat and interact. And I'm also like really all over Instagram lately. Like at taratagliente is my Insta.
Rock on, sister. Rock on.
Thank you.
Oh, cool. So let's continue to move forward here. And
Okay.
the thing is, if you look at underneath where it says new associations, begin to look at what can productivity mean to you. Think about times, and Tara, you mentioned it beautifully. Think about times when you produced or created a lot. You were simply being productive, and maybe that's not the word you used, and it's not even the word. It's not even the word you need to use. But think about times when you were not. For all of you watching, think about times you were productive. You created a lot. You produced a lot. I mean, you were simply being productive, and so you have it in you to be more productive and create more. We just have to shift what these words mean to us, because words have power. They have tremendous power to influence us. And again, if we're negatively associated to creating more, producing more, then we're going to avoid it, and we're going to find ways to distract ourselves and not move forward. All right. So, any questions from the Facebook group, Tara?
Let me check this out. Yeah, Carrie's asking, what if you have negative associations to your calendar? Like if you're someone who resisting your scheduling and resisting your calendar.
Gotcha. Well, this is a good question. Okay, so if you have negative associations to resisting your calendar, just like anything, you want to explore what those associations are and where you learned them. And is resisting your calendar or resisting time blocking certain things, is that actually working for you? Is it producing the result that you desire? And if it is, keep resisting it. And if it's not, you've got to be willing to explore the underlying resistance patterns, the associations that you've learned to time blocking and to utilizing your calendar, because it can be a great resource, a great tool. So going back to Parkinson's Law, I love this question, Carrie. Going back to Parkinson's Law is that what if you knew a task only took, let's say, 2 hours to complete, and this is how I utilize my calendar. If you knew a task only took 2 hours to complete, why would you give yourself to the end of the week to do it? And so some questions you might want to explore is when do I want to do this activity? And if I scheduled it and time blocked it, and this is just the way I do it, and it works for me and a lot of other people that I work with, but if you time block those specific activities for the time you think that they're going to take, and then when that time comes, you cut the fat and you focus and you get it done, what tends to happen is that you don't distract yourself, you don't avoid as much. And so that's a good way that you can utilize it to your advantage and utilize Parkinson's Law to your advantage. Because again, if we give ourselves too much time to do a task, we're going to do all kinds of things to avoid and use distractions until it absolutely becomes time to step into doing that activity. So hopefully that helps, Carrie. I know you'll be on 3-hour training tomorrow, so we'll dive deeper into that as well.
Thumbs up.
What's that?
Here's a thumbs up.
All right. So this is where we begin to make a shift with productivity, is because productivity is sort of disguised as something which we're going to uncover here in a moment. But there are some very common blocks, and this is step number 3 in our 10-step process, but removing the internal blocks. And the question that we want to be asking is, what is it that prevents us not from just being more productive or producing more, but this is where it gets juicy for me and exciting for me, is what is it that stops you from operating at your highest and peak potential? What is it that is in the way internally that keeps you from operating at your highest, most optimum levels? So optimum defined is the best or the greatest. These are a couple definitions that I found on the internet. And being productive is sort of an interesting animal because it's a disguise for you stepping into your greatness. So if you are avoiding being more productive, or if you're avoiding creating more, producing more, you're not just avoiding being productive, you're avoiding stepping into your greatness. And this is where we can make a really big shift. And so when you look at some of these last couple of pages here, is this training is not only like some strategies and how to organize your day, but it's also how do we unlock those inner blocks that keeps you from stepping in to your potency, to stepping into the creative genius that you know you are. And there's a couple of very common ones on the second to the last page. Some common fears that we have to being productive is the fear of standing out from your peers. So, for example, if you're producing a ton and creating a ton, and you start to stand out from your crowd and stand out from the peers, what associations do you have to standing out from your peers? You know, a lot of times we will do everything that we can to fit into the peer group that accepts us and loves us for who we've been, but will they love us for who we become by being more productive and being at our best and operating at our greatest potential? So that's one of the common blocks. And then another one is the fear of getting it wrong. Most people will just continue doing the same things over and over and over again in their business or in their career, creating the same result because they're avoiding stepping into doing something different and operating their day in a different way because maybe they don't want to get it wrong. And not only that, there is an absolute, and I think it's right there on that second to last page under notice, there is an intensity of operating at optimum levels of performance, and that intensity can sometimes be so intense that people avoid feeling that. But what that intensity is, it's a level of uncomfortableness, but specifically, it's a level of expansion. So when you're in that intensity, that's actually the feeling of you expanding. And when we're in that level of intensity, sometimes it gets so uncomfortable, people will step out of it, they'll avoid, they'll distract themselves and go do something unconscious, like go to Facebook and they'll scroll down. And these are all in the distraction section that we'll go into, but people will go on Facebook and just, you know, scan the feed, you know, and watch videos on puppies and goats, you know.
I'm sorry. There's so many. I mean, so many of these blocks. I've experienced personally, and I totally know that whole. Let me just. Oh my God, this is way too much energy moving through my body right now, and let me just calm down. Like I totally know what you mean by kind of going to Facebook to kind of like just chill for a minute. But I've noticed that, you know, when I'm working on a project, a lot of the projects I worked on are for people who are like changing the world, like world-changing things, and that gets me so high energetically that, you know, I don't have to eat, I don't have to sleep, I don't, you know, it's kind of like you gotta, I can just be going on pure inspiration, and it's like there are those times where it's just like, okay, this is a little too, like a little overwhelming at times, and I've never heard anybody put that into words before, and it's just so, I'm kind of just like, wow. So thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. And where we want to explore here for you watching this, where you want to explore is when you step into that level of intensity of producing at high levels and creating that momentum. There's a joyful momentum that comes with being really productive. And when that intensity hits for you, what do you do to avoid it? You know, do you use food, or do you use sex, or do you use the internet, or, you know, there's so many different ways that we use to sidestep that feeling because it's so intense, but that's actually you expanding. And there's a distinction here to be made, I think. If you're using avoidance as a way just to take a break so that you could step back in, that's not avoidance, right? But it's when we indulge in those avoidances. It's when we indulge and we're on Facebook for 2 hours and all of a sudden, we kind of wake up out of our trance and we're like, damn, the time's gone. That's when we know that it's a distraction and an avoidance. So, during this training, we're going to go over the common avoidance patterns and the common distractions that people step into that keep them from being way more productive. And so,
That's really cool.
yeah, so as we go through these, also there's a fear of failure, crashing and burning. If you move too fast, sometimes there's this underlying fear of, if I move too fast, then I'm going to crash and burn and fail. And again, these are just old associations that we learned a long time ago that are no longer valid, but man, sometimes those feelings seem real, and they move us out of being super productive. Also, a fear of moving faster than everyone else. So what would it mean for you, my friend, if you were moving faster than everybody else? Would you stand out too much? Would you be susceptible to judgment? And that's the final key that I have here is, a lot of times people avoid being productive and avoid those optimum levels of performance because there's a fear of being seen and a fear of being judged by people around them. And so would you be willing to fly regardless of who judges you? Would you be willing to fly regardless of who makes you wrong for it? And just know that when you do choose to fly and operate at high levels of performance, there are high achievers up there flying that are going to welcome you with open arms. So keep that metaphor in mind. Any last questions from the forum?
I'll check in just a second, but I just want to throw in something right here, and for those of you who are watching, sometimes I'll be working with somebody, and it comes to right before we're about to launch whatever it is, that the project or whatever, and if it's something that hasn't been done yet before, I noticed that the person that has come up with the client that I'm working with, right? They'll be like, I think this training can be great for all of you who experience that place where right before launch, if you experience a sense of like, wait, I can't move forward, like that if you hit that wall. This is going to be something that's really awesome for you, because I can see, George, that those type of blocks, it's not that people fear have fears about their smallness. It's their fear of them being great, like their greatness. So I just wanted to add that little caveat as that's been my experience, and there's been some projects that have been so amazing, and then I notice the client will just all of a sudden be like, okay, we're done, and then they won't see it through, or I've experienced that a lot with certain people, and there's just takes some facilitation to get them through that piece.
Yep. Brilliant. I mean,
anyway.
Really brilliant, and like there's a threshold of intensity that comes when you're willing to step into that level of greatness, and it's a lot like the Chuck Yeager story. Chuck Yeager, if you're not familiar with him, did not invent Jägermeister, but he did break the sound barrier. And so Chuck Yeager, before Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier, there were two gentlemen that went up into the air and tried to break the sound barrier before him. And when they hit those Mach speeds where they were really like pushing the sound barrier, their planes would like hit this tremendous amount of resistance. And out of fear, both gentlemen pulled back on their planes, and because their planes couldn't handle the resistance, their planes exploded, both men died. So Chuck Yeager goes into the air, he recognizes and remembers that both men pulled back at the last moment. Well, he starts hitting these Mach speeds, right, and starts hitting that resistance, and he remembers that these other two gentlemen did too, and he has a choice. He's like, either I can push forward and see what happens, push forward into the unknown, into that intensity, or I could pull back and risk death like the other men did. So Chuck Yeager decides, heck, I'm going to push forward. So he pushes forward and goes, boom. And the story goes, all he hears was this loud sonic boom, because he had broken the sound barrier. And so a lot of times, just like you mentioned, Tara, when we're creating this kick-ass momentum with our business or our careers, sometimes we'll hit that threshold, and because it's sort of new terrain that we're about to enter into, and it's unknown and it's unfamiliar and it's intense, a lot of times people will revert back to what's comfortable and do the things that they've known that are familiar because they know how to do them, because they can achieve a certain level of accomplishment doing those things that they're familiar with. But man, the people who really fly in this world are the ones who step into the unknown consistently, not just once, but daily. And that's this program and this training is all about. It's like, how do you daily step into your greatness? You know, it's more than just like, okay, let's list out a few things here to do today, and let's get them done. All right. It's more than that, right? It's more than that. It's stepping into your greatness daily, organized and being intentional about your day and stepping into it with a conscious presence, with an intensity that says, I'm going to own my day. I'm going to be at cause to my day, because most people sit back and they're at effect to the things that happen in their day. But when you organize and you plan and you're intentional about where you're going to spend your time, you become a force in your world, and you become a force to be reckoned with. And people start watching you. People start seeing you, and they're like, oh my God, they're on the move. And you might be one of those people that are right there on the cusp of something even greater. And my invitation for you is to keep stepping into that greatness, man, because once you hit that threshold of momentum, people are going to start noticing you. It's like your presence in the world expands, and that's how people like Brendon Burchard, or people like Tony Robbins, or people like Dane Heer and Gary Douglas, they just keep stepping into it. Their presence expands, and as a result of it, their work expands. People become aware of what they're up to, and all of a sudden, boom, they've got this massive presence in the world, delivering their gifts into the planet. And we all have that capacity, but we've got to be willing to do it daily. And that's the thing. People look for the big things sometimes. People look for, like, okay, what's that one big idea? It's not about the big things. It's about doing the little things consistently, daily, being intentional, and stepping into your day with a force to be reckoned with, and being willing to say, you know what, screw it. If I'm going to lose friends, I'm going to lose friends. Screw it. If people are going to judge me, they're going to judge me. But I'm going to be intentional about my day. I'm going to be at cause to my day. I'm not going to be at effect anymore. And I'm going to make a dent in this place called planet Earth, and people are going to know who I am. And so when you come into your day with that kind of intensity and that kind of excitement about making a difference, man, nothing can stop you. And hopefully that's what this 3-hour training can give you. So we covered the first 3, and hopefully you've made a shift and seen that productivity is not just about making a list and doing them. It's about getting excited about being all of you in the world and operating at maximum or optimum capacity and potential. So hopefully you made that shift, and you see that productivity is really disguised as you stepping into your potential. And I hope you'll step into it with us like Chuck Yeager did. Just a few other things that we're going to cover here is step number 4 is creating an inspiring vision. So it's not enough just to know what we're going to do on a daily basis, but like, where are we going? Like, where's the big vision? What's the biggest version of us that we're stepping into? So part of the training is going to be about how do you create an inspiring vision that pulls you toward it? And because if we don't have that vision and we're just like going through the process day to day, we're going to get burned out unless we're fired up about an inspiring vision. So we're going to take some time to create an inspiring vision. Next, we're going to look at organizing and planning. You know, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, you know, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail. Somebody said that. And then Abraham Lincoln also said that, Abraham Lincoln said this one. He didn't say the one before. I don't know who said the one before. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 8 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. And really that's what the essence of organizing and planning is, so that you know where you're spending your time the next day. Next, we're going to look at prioritization and the power of chunking. So you're also going to get my one sheet that was adapted from a lot of different bodies of work from productivity, but our brains tend to work in big chunks and then small chunks. So you're going to learn how to organize your projects in a way that give you tangible, actionable size steps. Because if we've got a project and it's just coded in our mind as this huge thing that we need to do, it's too overwhelming. It's like, how do we eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, but most of the time we're trying to eat the elephant whole. This process will help you see the big project and then break it down and chunk it down to actionable size steps. And then you'll also learn how to recognize what are your top priorities of the day and then focus on those things. So I'm going to show you this entire one sheet, and then we're going to create a customized version for you in a way that works for your brain and your career and your business. So that's step 6 in prioritizing and the power of chunking. Step 7, we're going to go deeper into Parkinson's Law and time blocking. Number 8 is your morning routines. Man, what you do in those first 30 minutes and first hour of the day is going to set the tempo and the tone for the rest of your day. So how do we create something for you, uniquely for you, that in that first 30 minutes you get up and you get yourself tuned in, man. You get yourself tuned in to your vision. You get yourself tuned in to the day. You get yourself tuned in to the Creator. You know, you get yourself channeled into Jesus, and you start operating from that Jesus mode. Okay. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. And you start operating from that place. That's what I'm talking about. And then also managing your energy. If you're tired, there's this thing that I'm going to teach you called the activity to energy ratio. The energy to activity ratio. The higher your energy is, the more excited, enthusiastic, joyful you are, the more energy you're going to have to tackle some of those higher, bigger tasks. But if your energy is low, this is why most people start off their day just checking email for 2 hours and not getting anything done that first 2 hours of the day, because their computer's making weird noises and their energy level is low, and they only got the energy to attack the low-level tasks. And this is why most people don't create a momentum in their day, because they start on crap tasks. They focus on minnows versus whales. When you make that shift and you create your day so that you're managing your energy at high levels, you're then going to attack high-level activities. So that's key number 9, and then key number 10 is this is probably the biggest one, is knowing and managing your distractions. So if you're not aware of what your distractions are, your distractions probably have you. If you don't manage your distractions are managing you. And essentially a distraction is anything that takes you out of that flow, out of that intensity of momentum in a way that you indulge in it. And, you know, having a meal, you know, just to kind of re-energize and reboot and take a break is different from, like, eating 2 pizzas, you know, as a result of avoiding the intensity. So there's some distinctions that you'll want to make. And that's really what we're going to cover in the 3-hour training tomorrow. If you can't make it live, that's okay. We're going to give you the recording. You're going to get the entire workbook, not just the first 3 steps, but you're going to get the entire workbook, and you'll be able to ask questions live on the training. So if you're watching this on the recording, or whether you're live watching it right now, there's a couple of options below that you can see. One of them is for $97, so you can jump into the training for $97. All you got to do is share the event on Facebook, or if you don't want to share and you just want to just get into the training right now, you can just jump in for $197. So both those options are available to you. I invite you to jump in if you're feeling the tug, and check in with you. Ask a couple questions. You know, if by taking this training, will it allow me to enhance my productivity, to produce and create more? Will I get some cool strategies and ideas to create more in the world? And also, will it help me uncover some of the underlying blocks and the hidden keys that keep me from being more productive? So anyway, obviously I get super passionate about this. Man, I got so much energy right now. I can go run through a wall. Tara, do you have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions. I'm actually just really excited about this. I'm pumped up, full of energy now too. I'm just like, so, but yeah, I'm pretty pumped, and I can't wait till tomorrow. You know, like I'll have some questions for you tomorrow. That's for sure.
Okay, cool. So hopefully this has helped you, the watcher and the viewer of this. And hopefully it gives you just a couple tips and ideas that will help you become more productive and produce and create more in less time. And that's really what this training is all about. So we are going to sign off. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to being with you tomorrow during the actual 3-hour training. So take good care, and we'll see you then.